Hi guys, welcome to this quick workflow / tutorial video to see how I set up my custom materials in Blender. Here you have a sneak peek at the final result, which I think it looks pretty decent without any post-production done. So this is straight out of Blender, and now we are jumping into a empty scene with just a plane and simple sphere. We're putting on experimental mode in Blender and adding a modifier to the plane. Subdivision surface, make sure to highlight adaptive in this little check mark. Go into edit mode of the plane, simply shift E and drag to make the crease, remove this weird octagon what happened to our plane. Make sure also in the material setting right here that you have displacement set to just fit everything so we can see it nicely. Go into node editor and we're gonna start setting up the maps for material. We're gonna set up the grass material in this example. As you can see, we have 6 maps. We're actually just going to use 4 of those. So as you can see on the left, we have all our maps. I'm dragging the base color first, which is the only map that has color information, then metallic, which is a map we don't really need. All we have to do is leave this first one as a color, and the rest of them we switch to non-color data, which is how Blender basically reads maps. Only color map has color, and the rest of them are non-color data, even if it's normal map. So right now I'm just using texture coordinate node and mapping, and now all the maps are going basically into the corresponding connections, I guess. So we have color base into color, metallic into metallic, roughness into roughness, and the normal map has its own node that has to be plugged in between. Make sure you set it to object space, because that's how we can combine height map together with normal maps. It's a bit tricky right now because I don't think it's fully developed in Blender, but you can make it work. And make sure for the last one, for the height map, you plug in math node. So I'm just gonna remove this junk we don't need, and I accidentally removed my math node. So search for math node, then set it to multiply, and just connect it to one of those values and to displacement material output. And now you're good to go. The whole setup is done. We're just gonna be tweaking it for the rest of the tutorial. Just splitting the view again and going into 3D view so we have real-time preview. Just a quick unwrap if you didn't already of the plane. Smart UV unwrap should be good enough if you're using plane. And right now I'm going into geometry and making sure that the subdivision rate is just 2 pixels. The final will be 1, but the preview right now what you see right now is just 2 pixels. So it's like twice worse than it will be in the final one. So we just have a glimpse at our first preview, and it looks terrible. Just looks terrible. I hate to look at my work in progress. Now I'm showing you an example of what happens if you just leave it at tangent space. It's not gonna work. So make sure you change that to object space as we have here, and just put it into a bit subtle value like 0.1, and the same with the height map. Okay, so now I'm going into mapping node and just basically scaling down the whole texture, and it's seamless, so it should work pretty decently. If you go a bit over, you might see it repeats, so you just need to go into this gray area and see what works for your scene basically. And now I just see that the whole sphere is a bit going too much into the ground. Just back up again, and as you can see, the preview is still looking terrible, but right now I'm just gonna do some tweaks to the lighting, just a quick camera angle change basically. If you're a beginner, it might look complicated, the whole setup. This is my HDRI setup. It's basically two HDRIs mixed together and you have a nice control over it. I will link a video down below in the description to a more comprehensive way to set up HDRIs. So now I'm just adding focus blur, a nice bokeh, and gonna put it to like 1 point. It looks like 0.6 is cool. So just gonna, by this stage this is mostly tweaking. We are entering this stage where this is the final thing that will kind of make the textures pop. So this looks like the final camera, but still gonna be tweaked. The whole picture is a bit overexposed, so I'm just dialing back the whole HDRI, and everything is coming nicely. It's just it needs a few more tweaks, going back into material, cranking it up, but I'm gonna see it doesn't really work. You can see it's a bit too much, so it's just tweaking, to be honest. I'm going into almost 6, but at the end it's gonna be too much. And again, with the height map, you just kind of go in between those two parameters right here, normal map and the multiply node, and see what gives you the most realistic result here. So we are kind of entering into this final stages of some additional tweaks. This is the moment where actually everything comes together. It was looking bad, but at the end I'm just rotating the plane, which just, there's many ways you can do it in the coordinates, but sometimes it gets messy. So I'm just actually using the physical plane with the texture to rotate it, see if there's a better spot where the texture looks the best. And again, just tweaks of the normal map. And this is actually, I believe, one of the final stages where it still looks a bit off. So I'm just having a final preview, so I'm putting it 1:1 pixel, which when I preview now, it's gonna give me the actual final look that we're gonna get when we render. And this is actually where I see the 1:1 pixel ratio is just too much. So even though in the preview we had before it looked nice, when I put it 1:1 pixel, as you can see, it looks just too harsh. The whole grass, it looks bad. So I'm just having a tweaks, and again, those are the final tweaks where I actually put it to something like 0.025, the normal map. And oh, and this is actually when I changed the camera, and this is where the whole image kind of just and again, final tweaks. I had some problems with real-time recording, so I'm post commentating what's happening, and I think this is actually, oh yeah, just it still looks a bit overexposed, so I'm dialing it back on the light. And now I'm gonna, I think, zoom in for the last time to see if the grass is looking good, and I'm actually gonna be freaking amazed because it looks so good. Usually it's when you do a render and then you do a tutorial in it, you have to do it again, and sometimes it doesn't turn out good. But if you zoom in, you can actually see it looks pretty good. I mean, I don't know, I hope you guys get some cool results with those materials. It's all about tweaking in my experience. So if you have any questions, then let me know. And yeah, I'm really excited to release this pack and see what you guys come up with. So thanks for watching, and I wish you good renders. I'm having I'm closing, I'm kind of having a look at the close-up if the texture is looking good, and it still needs some tweaks.